We are going to talk about a lot more things, and that is with Portia. She's coming over to the show, and I'm just going to put up her banner really quickly. Portia Berry-Kilby, she's with Young Voices. She's the director at All Party Parliamentary Group for International Freedom of Religion or Belief. And she's been to the show many times. I adore her. I love talking pop culture, but I also love talking about what's happening on the international stage. And, as we were just talking about the lack of leadership in Washington, D.C., it looks as though we will not have any type of political representation during the coronation of King Charles III. So I'm bringing over Portia right now. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you back here at Common Sense America. And you look lovely. What time is it there right now?
It's 2:15, so 2:15, as the Americans would say.
At 2:15. Oh my goodness. How are you doing, Portia?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, good, good. I just got back from CPAC and Conservative Principal Actions Conference, and still high on the energy and being around great Americans and excited to see what happens in 2024. But I wanted to talk with you. I know we're going to talk about the coronation and all of those things because I'm very interested in that. But wanted to talk with you from the UK perspective. You are representing Young Voices, but also you're the director and leader of many things in the UK. What do you guys see from your standpoint with regards to America on the main stage, with everything that's happening, the balloons, the train derailments, all of these mysteries or lack thereof? What does UK? What are they saying? What do you hear? What are the rumblings, if you will?
I think there's a lot of anticipation coming up to the next election in 2024 as to which way it will go, and indeed who will be the various nominees on both sides,
Mhm.
especially as we get into the primaries. I think there's a lot of chatter about various people there. And as always, on Twitter, various things will break through. It's like, is this going to actually be the case? What about Nikki Haley? Maybe, maybe not. So that sort of chatter. But I dare say, regretfully, a lot of the news out of the US features on Harry and Meghan. So
You gotta be kidding me. Are you serious?
I say it, it is true. And maybe my news sources are just a wee bit too lowbrow, but Harry and Meghan still dominate. I think Meghan probably gets more airtime than Joe Biden. More the pity.
Oh
So
my gosh. Really? I had no idea that they were dominating the news sources.
I mean, especially on the front pages of our papers, like Prince Harry has been dominating the past few days. Meghan Markle is not far behind. They definitely get more headlines than Joe Biden, especially in the tabloids. So yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs. But similarly, you probably hear a lot about the royals in terms of British news as well.
Yes, yes, we hear. So I'll be honest with you. One of my pastime pleasures was always just watching Princess Diana growing up and collecting everything on her. And so, go to present time. I love following William and Catherine and their kids, and I look forward to the Christmas cards. I look forward to the public appearances, because the kids are so adorable, and you know that's just my reality. So I do that on Instagram. I have fun on Instagram looking at that, but in regards to seeing what they do in the national press lines, I do see Harry and Meghan. I didn't realize that they were dominating more than an American president, but that does say a lot. We'll just leave it at that. But I noticed that some of the news articles I sent you, Harry and Meghan are still, if you will, what was the term? Page 6 said Harry and William still hold the upper hand on King Charles's coronation. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think this is all around will Harry and Meghan make it to the coronation? Will they, won't they?
Mhm.
I think it's overblown that Harry and William hold the upper hand. At the end of the day, there is a hierarchy, and one of the greatest hierarchies still going is
Mhm.
that of the British royal family.
Mhm.
And people have their place. Harry and Meghan might speak out of place, but that doesn't mean they get to call all of the shots. So I think it will be a very carefully decided process as to the inviting of them, even the advice as to whether they accept or not. There's been some rumors, though I dismiss them, that the date of May the 6th for the coronation was decided because it's Archie's fourth birthday.
Oh, is it
I think
really? I didn't
it
realize.
is. I would be shocked if that was simply chosen to kind of slight the Sussexes. I think it's as good a day as any, and it's just a coincidence. I don't think there's any slight meant there. And if anything, it should be great for on your birthday to attend a once in a lifetime occasion such as a coronation. So yeah, I think reports of them holding the shots are a bit overblown, and at the end of the day, the king is the king, and long may he reign. I don't think he's really as worried by Harry and Meghan as sometimes the media lets on.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about the coronation. I know it's going to be May is going to be here before we know it. We're already in the beginnings of March, and I already am talking about all the things I have to do in April and May. So I know it's going to be here. What will we see leading up to it? I have the website up here as to what they already have planned, but what are your experiences in saying, okay, here's what we're going to see on the international stage in regards to such a huge event? And obviously, this hasn't happened since Queen Elizabeth, but it sounds like Queen Elizabeth, reading some of the BBC reports, so this that Queen Elizabeth was a lot, it was more moderate. And then this is going to be more on a international world stage where he incorporates the grandkids, he incorporates that next generation. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's an interesting contrast with Queen Elizabeth's coronation because she had far more people there and there was a lot more pomp and circumstance.
Mhm.
And King Charles has said since the get go that he's going to have a more watered down, a little more tailored coronation on a smaller scale. But at the same time as scaling back, he's trying to diversify, shall we say, what's going on. So, be that more modern music, be that a greater representation of faiths and beliefs,
Mhm.
so it's kind of you're scaling back, but you're also expanding. So I think the actual end result will be interesting. And my concern is that it won't feel like a coronation. And
Mm,
at the end of the day, the British crowning of the monarch is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Maybe you might get a couple, but for most people living in the UK today, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's the last of its kind in Europe. So the fact that it might be watered down in the name of diversity, I'm a little bit apprehensive about. But at the same time, I think we should have hope that it will still be a proper, spectacular affair. And you
right.
can't get around the fact that a coronation is a coronation. It's one of those most remarkable things. There is a sacred element to it, there is the anointing of the king.
Mhm.
Um, and as many people will know, the actual anointing of the monarch when it was Queen Elizabeth wasn't televised. And there was a whole debate as to should we put this on the screen or not.
Right.
But because it was deemed such a special and sacred moment, it
Right.
wasn't. So I think that speaks to the gravity of the occasion. And no matter how many NHS nurses you have represented, I
Yeah.
don't think that can detract fully from the grandeur of the event.
That's interesting that you brought up the whole diversity piece. And you say it could have the potential to be watered down from that aspect. And do you think the monarchy is slightly or even more halfway moving away from the pomp and circumstance of the traditions of what the monarchy stood for? And granted, that time period of Queen Elizabeth's coronation, that was quite some time ago, but the traditions are the traditions for a reason. So do you think that that they're in a more progressive, state, if you will?
You see, I think by virtue of it being the monarchy and the head of the Church of England, a figurehead for the nation, for the Commonwealth, there
Mhm.
is a natural diversity built in to the occasion, built into the monarchy.
Mm,
So I think if that is lent into, that's great. And I think Commonwealth representation is incredibly important as it speaks to the far reaching, the bounds of the monarch.
mhm,
But at the same time, I don't think that that isn't diversity for diversity's sake. I think there's a reason behind that. I
mhm.
think filling pews with NHS nurses, we wouldn't be in this situation had COVID not risen its, dirty head. So I think that is diversity with poor reasoning behind it. And if that
Mm,
is kind of tick box, let's be representative of all professions, but with a focus on the NHS, you're
Mhm,
kind of missing the point in
mhm,
terms of what is the monarchy, what should be celebrated. I think the
mhm.
very nature of this is the figurehead of the UK, that is diverse and inclusive in and of itself, as it stands for all, and no group is singled out.
That well said to that. That needs to be talked about more and more. That's well said to that, and I will probably pull that clip and share it all over the place because that's what we need to hear. That's what we need to hear. Talk to me about some of the things that we will see leading up to the coronation, more from the countryside. What will the Commonwealth do during that time period and leading up to the day of the event?
So, leading up to the event, I guess there's various events going on, kind of building momentum. And there's a bank holiday, so a public holiday, the Monday after the coronation, and a push to get local community initiatives going across the UK. And
Mhm,
that will build on what inevitably will be a lot of street parties on the weekend of the coronation. I
mhm.
think often you'll see photos of the coronation for Queen Elizabeth and think, this is spectacular. What a far gone age, it has something of magical air about it. But hopefully that will be recreated. And I think that was partly recreated for the Jubilee celebrations last year. And hopefully it will just build on that and be even more spectacular. Because, yes, a jubilee is a rare occurrence when it's for such a number as Queen Elizabeth, but also a coronation is. I hope it is ingrained in people's minds as a fantastic day.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Also, let's talk about in regards to the coordination and the day of the coordination. What do we, knowing that a lot of the American press will already be over there covering, is similar to Princess Diana and Charles' wedding, right? And similar to
Mm.
the Jubilee and Queen Elizabeth's passing. What will we see on the day of the coordination? And I loved how you talked about the services of the Church of England. And it's almost as though it's a prayer over King Charles and
Mm.
the safety of him and leading the nation from the monarch. And talk to us about what that will look like. And obviously, you've never experienced it before, but what you know and what are the traditions that we will look for that day?
There will be lots of pageantry, that's for sure, and a lot of, what would you call it, procession beforehand of
Mhm,
various armed forces, military personnel, but also I think there's meant to be NHS nurses in the procession as well. But, a lot of different groups processing. And at the time of Queen Elizabeth's coronation,
mhm,
apparently to pass one point for the
mhm.
entire procession to go through, it took 45 minutes. It was that long. So it won't be that long for King Charles, apparently, but there will be a lot of that. And if you saw anything of the Jubilee, no, not the Jubilee, of the funeral
The
procession,
funeral. Yeah.
yeah, then I'd assume it would be slightly on a larger scale than that, and they were magnificent in and of themselves. So a lot of that, and then a church service with some modern music as well as some traditional, and a gospel choir
Mhm.
um, as well. So hopefully there is something for everyone in it, and it will encourage people to tune in for all of the right reasons. But they will also see, centuries old tradition of the anointing of the king, of the crowning of the king with
Mhm,
a crown,
mhm.
um, and the pledges from the peers of allegiance, which apparently will only be done by Prince William on this occasion,
Oh.
as a figure, as symbolic on behalf of all of the peers,
Mhm,
and as a slightly tailored down, scaled back coronation.
mhm.
So there'll be a lot of history, but a lot of modernity too. And I
Right,
think hopefully showing the relevance of the monarchy to today.
right, right. Let me ask you this. I have to ask you a political question. So, and you can answer however you want, but I noticed that Biden probably will not be there. And I noticed that his representation really wasn't there during, I believe it was the Queen's passing, things of that nature. What does that say to the Commonwealth? What does that say to the monarch that, the United States, where there was such a powerful relationship with Reagan and Thatcher? There's always been those powerful relationships over the years, and Churchill. And now we don't necessarily have that powerful leader at the helm who can represent us and during this time period. Have you caught wind of who could be over there representing us, since it sounds like Biden is not going? But have you, what does that look like to the to people like you as you lead in these certain levels? What does that say?
So I haven't caught wind of who will be coming from the US to the coronation,
Mhm.
though I hope it is someone high profile. I think if an invitation is extended, then surely the president ought to say yes, though for whatever reasons, maybe it has been decided that he shouldn't be invited.
It sounds
And
like
at the end of the day, I think a coronation is for the people under like who have allegiance to the monarch.
it. Mhm.
So why should the US actually have a center stage role at such an event? I don't think it's a matter of international diplomacy. I think a coronation is for the people who regard and honor the king.
Mhm.
So, dare I be a bit controversial, but I'm quite happy if Biden doesn't come. Maybe, the FCGO, the Foreign Office, has a few more concerns about that and think international relations are more important. But I think it should be for, yeah, the people who really do holds the king in high regard.
Yeah. I just had always admired the relationship that Queen Elizabeth and Reagan had, also the relationship that he had with Margaret Thatcher, and the international diplomacy was just so very powerful. It said so much to the world. And so I'm looking for that again. And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to having that yet again. Talk to me briefly before I have to let you go. And I just love having you here. I could talk to you all day about everything in the UK. Talk to me a little bit. I wanted people to know what you were doing, or at least your title. Talk to us a little bit. I know that you're with Young Voices UK, but you also are this director. Can you share a little bit about what you do?
For sure. So, I guess with the All Party Parliamentary Group, it's getting parliamentarians from all different parties to do more to promote freedom of religion or belief, which in the US is more commonly called religious freedom.
Yes.
They're a slightly different spec, shall we say.
Right.
So, we do that through Parliament, through the media, and all points in between.
That's really fascinating. So, the freedom of religion, what are you working with, all different types of groups? What's that look like?
Yes. So, we work, be it Christians, different denominations of Christians, Hindus, Muslims,
Mhm.
humanists, basically finding commonalities and raising cases where those groups are persecuted for their faith or belief, and to get our UK government to do more about those groups internationally,
Mhm.
um, through the Foreign Office, through trade agreements, to be the voice for the voiceless is a
Mhm.
common phrase that we use
Mhm.
for those groups who are persecuted on the basis of what they believe.
Mhm.
And we maintain that you should be free to believe and change your religion, and to have and to hold your religion, and that is a fundamental human right. And where that human right is violated, often other human rights are also violated.
What are the percentages of Christians in the UK, and then Catholics, and you said humanist and Muslim and Hindu? What does the percentages look like? What's the largest faith group?
So, in the most recent census of the UK, I think it's now over 50% are of no faith. And then Christianity is after that. I don't have the specific
Sure,
numbers, and we
sure,
deal a lot more with international groups rather than
sure,
domestic.
sure.
So, yeah, but the most recent census hit several headlines a few months ago with the shifting demographics of faith and belief in the UK.
Really? So you're saying 50% that are no faith whatsoever?
Correct, correct. And I can't remember what it was from 10 years before, but there is a very clear trajectory to increasingly of no faith or of other faiths,
Mhm.
Christianity, um, being kind of diminished in numbers.
Wow. What does that say to you? I mean, just off with your leadership role, is that something that kind of, was it a shock to you at first when you read that census and the update, because of you wanting to fight for religious freedom? What was your thoughts on that?
I think it was kind of as expected, as I think we've all, like people, at least in the West, have seen a shift away from religion. I
Mhm.
think the issue comes, or the difficulty comes, in making people understand the importance of religion or of belief,
Mhm.
in a positive sense, and that those who are persecuted for that on that ground abroad, if they've never heard of religion, if they don't understand what religion is, or if they don't even realize what their set is at all, I
Mm.
think that is an uphill battle as people need to realize the relevance of religion or belief to them and how that can be a totally all encompassing thing in their lives. And if
Right.
you have fewer people holding a set, then it's just harder to make that case.
Yeah, my goodness. I had no idea that. I'm kind of in shock, and I applaud you for what you are doing with religious freedom.
Mhm.
That's very powerful. I'm going to end it on this note, and then I'll let you go. And this is a lighter note. Have you read Spare? Have you read Spare Tire, Spare Change?
No, I can't say I have. I wouldn't really waste my money on it. I think you get the snippets online, and that's more than enough for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a good book to read. And this is what I'm going to promote right now. This is the new book, The Courage to Be Free by Ron DeSantis, who's the governor, America's governor of Florida. He's on a huge book tour right now. He just left Reagan. He was at Reagan Library last night, from what I understand. This is a book to read. Go ahead and just pitch Spare. Put it in the trash. It's not worth the
Yeah.
money or just catch the snippets on Megan Kelly or Here with Portia. But this is the book to read. It is a really great read. What I love about this, and I know you'll really appreciate this, is just the fact that during COVID, during its ugly head, he was one of the great leaders in this country as we look for a leader that kept his state open and really let people live freely during that time period. And it goes all to freedom, 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 freedom. So I am so grateful, as I did that little pitch, I'm so grateful to you, Portia. I love having your presence. I love being around you. I wish we could grab some tea and just go to a local bookshop in the UK and hang out for the day. I think
Absolutely.
we'd be best pals. I absolutely love it over there. But until I get to have you back again, thank you so much. Have a great
Thank you,
week.
Eden.
I'm so thankful for you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. All the very best, Eden.
Oh, you too. I'll see you soon, Portia. Bye bye.
Bye.